Holy cow, Pat, it's Friday already.
Hey, Rick. How you doing, sir?
This week ripped by.
Huh?
I said this week just zipped by.
Yep.
So, and you're
No
running
doubt.
around like a chicken with your head cut off today. So,
Today's just been, it's one of those days. But hey,
so we had two appraisals I wanted to share with you. One, we're all writing these contracts with the appraisal gaps in the language, right?
Yep.
So if the house is 325,000 and you've offered 350, if it doesn't appraise at 350, we're writing in the offer, that says we'll come to the closing party in a closing table with that 25,000 if it doesn't appraise for 350, whatever that gap is.
Yep.
Down to the asking price. So if it doesn't even appraise for the original asking price, then no, we're not going to do that. So I've written two that way so far. One had a really large appraisal gap. So get this, the first one was 325,000 and we wrote it for 353. And the buyer was worried that maybe he was paying too much. And we're saying, look, real estate's going up at 3.3% a month right now in this zip code. So in 90 days, it's already going to be at 360,000. And maybe by the time the appraisal comes in, that gap's going to already close. Well, it closed, it appraised at 353 right on the button. So he doesn't have to come in with any funds. Now, the fun one was today. The offer price was 625 and we came in at 655 and with the appraisal gap in there. And then and it's a VA loan. So then we got a Tidewater. And a Tidewater is where VA appraiser says, we didn't hit value, so give us more comps. And I've got it back behind me here somewhere. So we have to fill out comps 1, 2, and 3. Well, what happened? Appraisers can't see the actual contract price until it closes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think from the time he did the appraisal and we got it from him to put in more comps, 3 other houses closed. One of them closed, smaller house, for 728. Another one closed for 660. Another one closed for 650. So what's happening is in the time period from when the appraiser goes out to where you actually get in a VA loan to submit additional comps, prices went up and the appraisal came in at 663, 10K over. And, people have been worried about VA appraisals, but I'll tell you what, I love that Tidewater where they tell you they're short. They don't tell you how much, but we get a chance to go back in and pull more closings and then update the file.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's, appraisals have been the trickiest. It's on our end, on my end, it's been, trying to get appraisers out. It's been very frustrating because the government, the owner of my company, Andy Price, we were talking the other day, there's two things that really have hurt consumers that the government's got in the way. The 3-day right of receipt, or the 3-day CD CD period, the closing disclosure, where the waiting period that we have to have, it doesn't do consumers any good whatsoever. You saw the loan estimate a couple weeks prior to that, and then the CD has really, and he even admitted, we were talking about that, and he said it has hurt a lot of people in terms of closing costs, lock extensions, the weekend. If you have a CD that you have to wait 3 days and all the parties are, hip to the, they know the numbers. Why should you have to wait another 3 days before you can sign docs? It has been asked, the fees that I wish the government would certainly take a look at this. I'm almost tempted to write to a couple congressmen and just, try to get this going, because the 3 days, I could see a 1-day cooling off period, but 3 days is ridiculous.
Well,
and
yeah.
The other
and
thing
if,
is
and
the
if
AMCs.
anything changes at all, they have to reissue it again, and you got to set the clock another 3 days, right?
Yeah. Now, if it doesn't change it, if it increases it up by the APR by over 1/8, it has to reset. But if it's lower, if the fees are lower, then they don't have to. They just have to reissue another loan estimate just 1 day. But that's why a lot of lenders, when they do the original loan estimates, will overestimate a little bit on title fees and things of that, because, or they might add an appraisal fee, that even though they're having a property inspection waiver, which those are getting few and far between, because I said Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are tightening up. Basically, the appraisal waiver, I mean, if we have to have an appraisal and we don't get the appraisal waiver, then, you can't do it. You can't add the fee later. So that's why a lot of loan estimates, a lot of people say, well, there's this fee on there and this fee on there that shouldn't be on there. Lenders they'll overestimate a little bit on the fee. But the other thing that's really messing things up is the AMC's, appraisal management companies, because, I'm not allowed to talk to an appraiser. I'm the last one to know what's going on in a situation. I've had a couple of situations in the last couple of weeks where, these AMCs, it's a third party. They don't really care. It's just the service is terrible, but these lenders have to go through, any lender has to go through an appraisal management company, a third party, to get it verified, the appraisal. Because before, obviously back in the day, I could call an appraiser and say, hey, I need 400,000 or 450. You can, coerce them a little bit. Now, it's hands off. And what's really hurting the industry is I'm the last one to know. And these appraisal management companies, they don't contact appraisers. If they can't get a hold of an appraiser for 2 or 3 weeks, they don't have a lot of skin in the game. It's absolutely terrible, making the mortgage business look terrible. So
yeah, and then they're sometimes they're running really late, and you don't even know who to call. I mean,
yeah, I don't know who to call.
Yeah,
they don't give you a phone. It's like this 800 number. It's terrible.
We have on this Friday, we're over 5,000 units. Yay. 5,046. And we're getting, I'm going to share some stuff here on the screen here with the Cromford report. And they're saying that, Fountain Hills, Glendale, and Goodyear are starting to move towards in favor of sellers, and everybody is already in favor of sellers. Tempe's way down to 325.7 with 100 being normal, right? But one of the things that they say in here, and I'm seeing it on my end, is, these numbers may look like they're moving a lot, down 7%, down 19%. And as they go in their calculations, they're saying, less buyer traffic and more listings coming on board. So the number's changing, but it's really a small number. Look at this. I mean, we have, if I scroll down here, the 7-day moving average, 4,411 new contracts came out the past 7 days, our new listings, and 4,127 went under contract. So it's a difference of 284. And when you look at the chart, it looks like a big deal, right? See that the blue lines are above the yellow line? That's encouraging, but it's only 200 homes.
Yeah.
I'd like to say it's, it's trending, it's going in the right direction. It's what we need, but it's not getting there fast enough. And then forbearance exits soar as more plans expire. So we've had a bunch of plans expire, a lot of them. Yeah. And we haven't seen any impact in inventory. Nobody's putting them up for sale. There's no foreclosures. And what they're saying here, not to read the whole thing, but at the end of the reporting period, 2.2 million loans remain in active plans. Of those, 697,000 are serviced for the GSEs, and 2.5% of those outstanding loans, and 900,000 are FHA and VA loans. But let's see, that really wasn't the number I wanted to find there. They're saying there's another 73,000 active plans with terms that expire this month or at the end of April. And so they're estimating 350,000 loans are due for servicer reviews to determine extensions or removals this month. And that's why the CFPB said, better have all your ducks in a row, because you guys are going to get hit with a lot of people who want to exit forbearance, and we don't want to see anybody foreclose.
Yeah.
And it's happening.
I think people have to come to a conclusion that these forbearances really are not going to amount to a lot of, it's going to amount to some inventory, but it's not going to amount to, the 4 million homes that we're behind. Like I said, the number that I told you last week, they're basically, we're based on the numbers we're about 4 million plus homes behind in inventory.
Yeah. Yep.
And so,
Hey, by the way, I like your new mic. It sounds good.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your help.
No, it makes a big difference. It sound is everything. I got this one a couple weeks ago, and I've been testing it and using it, and I like it. And I have a not to get too technical for our viewers, but I have kind of a soundboard behind my monitor. It's a little foam pad they sell at IKEA that keeps my voice from going out and bouncing off a wall. So that's working pretty good. But
I got to work on my lighting next.
Yes, yeah, we're going to fix that. So,
but not a lot going on in the mortgage business. I mean, the mortgage side of it, bonds have been. I mean, bonds, the job market basically. They came out with 266,000 jobs, the payroll, but they're expecting 1 million or about just a little under 1 million, like 975,000 homes.
Big miss.
A big miss. It's one of the biggest misses ever. And bonds rallied, but then they backed up a little bit. So like the 10-year treasuries at 155. It's been relatively quiet the last couple of weeks. I mean, I thought there'd be a bomb. They thought that this would be a bombshell as far as the jobs hitting the bond market, but it just goes to show you. I mean, the mortgage-backed security price was up 13 basis points, so that was a good day on the bond market. With so the miss really. It helped the bond market, but then it pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, am I reading it right here? This is after the unemployment came out, and whoop, there went the bond market.
Yep.
And then it went right back down to where it started.
Yep.
Bad news is good for interest rates. Good news is not. And it just flew up, and we thought, okay, here we go, and then down it went.
In terms of the second homes and investment property, I saw one lender, Caliber, come out yesterday. One way that they came out with their new guidelines on second home and investments. They're raising their credit score from 620 to 680 on second home and investments. And they're pulling back their loan to value from, say, 85, on investments from 75 down to 70. They're pulling back their loan to values. So you got to put more money down, and they're raising the credit score. So that's the way that I saw one lender combating the 7%, limiting the portfolio. They're basically, lenders will now adjust their guidelines accordingly to adjust their portfolio.
So that affects you if you want to go up to Pine Top and buy a cabin?
Yeah. Like you said, their score was 620. They raised it from 620 to 680 on both second homes and investments, and they lowered their loan to value. If it was 85, they reduced it down to 75. And if it was, 90% for second homes, now it's up. I think it's 80.
And a lot of discussion on what's going to happen. The federal judge just ruled that the CDC does not have authority to issue a rental moratorium, which was actually done under Trump. Mm-hmm. So they aren't allowing them to extend it. And so there's a lot of chatter about that. It's going to go to another judge. And I'm like, look, it's going to expire in a month anyway. I mean, we're already in May. It's the extension is, till the end of June, right? Mm-hmm. So, just don't even bother taking it to court. It's expiring in six weeks. But what do you think is going to happen when that expires? Do you think mom and pop landlords are going to say, I just don't want to deal with that mess anymore, and they fix up the house and put it up for sale?
I mean, I've talked to a few people. Man, I've got a buddy of mine that's got 4 homes, and he's got money. You're probably going to see a mixed bag. I mean, obviously the people that have got 1 or 2 homes, that there's probably, it's who knows what the exact numbers are, but you look at, there's probably a group of people that have 1 or 2 homes that they're financially hurt, that they're like, what, I'm done playing this game. I'm going to sell. We made $150,000 on both homes, or $200,000. We're just going to sell them. Yeah. There's probably going to be a handful, a small percentage of people that are getting squeezed, but then, for the most part, the people I see that buy investment homes, they've got reserves, because typically you have to have reserves when you buy an investment property. That's what the lenders, and that's another thing with going back to the guidelines. When you buy an investment property, back in the day, they changed the guidelines now. Like if you have 6 to 10 homes, I run my information in Fannie Mae. It depends on, there's a couple of different factors, but they want you to have 6 to 12 months reserves to get qualified to buy an investment property. typically. So, these people do have most people that have bought investment. If you think about most people that bought investment properties in the last, 2 to 4, 5, 6 years, I'd say, who knows what that number is, but they do have reserves, because the guidelines that lenders have requested is that we want to see 6 months reserves, or 10 months reserves, or 12 months reserves. So they do have reserves, I would say, for the most part, but you're going to probably see a small percentage of people that are hurting. It's going to be that one or two.
I don't think the big investors are going to bail either, because
No.
As soon as if they do ask these renters to go out, then they're going to get more rent, on the next tenants. But I'm going to be curious to know how this affects your ability. I mean, if you lost your job, or you were laid off and you weren't able to pay your rent because your employer was shut down, is that going to affect your ability to rent again? I mean, because you're going to, is it going to count as late payments? Is it going to count as, kind of like, being delinquent on your mortgage? I mean, I don't know where this is going.
Yeah.
So if I wasn't able to pay my rent because I worked at, I'll just name a restaurant, and, and they're closed for months, I couldn't pay my rent. Are they reporting it as late? And now I can't, I go down to the Met at Fashion Center and I want to get an apartment, and they call, the last thing, oh yeah, Rick didn't pay for 7 months. Yeah. Well, I was told I didn't have to.
Yeah.
And maybe those people that are asked those applications, maybe they won't care. Maybe they'll loosen their standards a little bit.
I think a lot of people, a lot of times, with a letter of explanation, I mean, in my industry, if there's a situation that evolves and that everything's explained in a letter of explanation. Because if you apply for something, you apply for a mortgage or rent, I mean, people are just looking at that application, that paperwork, and that's all they see. They don't know the story. You might need to explain the story. Like when I'm doing a loan, sometimes I need a letter of explanation for something that pops up on somebody's credit or a scenario. The underwriter will come back and say, we need an LOX, a letter of explanation, for why he did this, this, and this. And you typically just have to explain it. Because a lot of times when people go late on their credit, you can see when they go late, like say from March of 2019 to August of 2019, they went, you can see there's a pattern, and, the underwriter can say, yep, I can see that pattern. Yep. His mom was sick. He was helping her. He was off, work. You could see the pattern in a credit report.
Yeah. Well, I saw a video today. Somebody was talking about the Phoenix market, and he was showing a whole bunch of charts by comparison and trying to have the argument using charts and trends that this summer our house prices are going to peak, because sales always go down in June, and snowbirds have left, and he's using that chart, which is fine if you're into technical analysis and looking at a real estate market, looking at stocks, but it's a whole different game right now. I don't think prices are going to peak in June. If prices were going to peak in July, our inventory number has to be high today.
Yeah.
It has to be at not 5,000, but at least 18,000. That would signify a peak. And it would have to be, because the inventory today affects the prices down the road.
Yep.
So you don't have to be much of a rocket scientist to go, there's only 5,000 homes, so prices can't possibly go down.
We're following the right indicator. I mean, basically supply demand. What's the supply and what's the demand? Simple as that.
Yeah, and everything that you look at, that this might happen, that might happen, I just take it with a grain of salt and go, you may be right. That's absolutely a possibility. Is it going to change this number?
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Well, give you an example. Go back to I had a gentleman, a buddy of mine, his son was buying a house under contract. The appraisal came in this last week, and he had a purchase price of $410, and appraisal came in at $385, $25,000 less. And this is one where the seller did not sell it to an investor. He wanted to sell to a private party, first-time home buyer. And I give him kudos, the seller, incredible kudos for doing that, because he had a cash investor come in for like $30,000, $40,000 more than the 410. He said, we're not accepting any offers from investors. And that takes a lot of balls. Excuse my French, but I mean, I give that seller kudos. And that's what we need. More people to be selling to first-time home buyers that really need it. If you want to pay a little bit more, sure. But let's not get, this market's getting greedy. But the appraisal came in at 385. So I have to work off the appraised value of 385 when I'm doing the loan. So he's going to put 5% down, which equated to about, let's say the loan amount is 365. But in essence, he was okay with it. He had the money. He's like, and I basically told him, listen, all you're doing is paying down your principal a lot quicker on the loan. Now he only owes 365, and the house, the 385, the appraised value is just opinion of value on that snapshot of that day. Yeah. And it probably will be worth the next couple months, probably 410, 415. So now he's going to have a house valued at 415. He only owes 365 on it. So his question was, well, I'm paying the difference. Where does that go? And he didn't understand it. But I go, no, that just you're basically paying down your principal a lot quicker. So it's not, I don't see people getting burned.
Paying $15,000 more in your offer doesn't mean that you're ponying up $15,000 more dollars. It just means your loan amount is
your loan amount's changing. Yeah.
And you're still buying a house with leverage.
Yeah.
Now the one today, it was funny. I sent the agent and said, hey, by the way, I said, we got the appraisal back. Are you sitting down? And I said, it's, I gave her the dollar amount. Now we offered, 653 and it came in at 663. You know what she says? She goes, oh, now I feel bad. I feel like I should have listed it at a higher price. And my first thought was, we didn't need to, because we pulled you up to 653 anyway.
Yeah.
You weren't going to list it at 663. I mean, and you didn't have an offer that was even close to us yet. So it's like, you didn't need to list it for a higher price. You got your higher price. Yeah. And we were just lucky because of some timing with a couple homes that went in there. I mean, it's like last weekend. We had a house that was 825 and the final price came in at like 9.25. And I was talking to my buyers and I said, I don't think we should chase this, because as we looked at all the other homes in this price point, it was an anomaly that somebody would bid 100,000 over. So, you want to do the math, but you don't always, be careful. Don't get so emotional. You just want to win. I'm going to beat that guy. Well, you don't have to.
I think it's about a matter of balancing out, what you can afford, what type of time frame you've been looking at, how long you've been looking, what's the opportunity cost you're going to lose in terms of you get this house. Like my buddy's son, he said, you know what? He had no problem with it, appraising for 385. He's like, it is what it is. He goes, he had the money. And he said, you're going to be paying down your loan further. But he said, if I have to go out and find another house, who's to say that I might not getting in a bidding war that's 50 or 60,000? Because the three prior homes that he was involved in were in major bidding wars of 40 or 50,000. He said, I'll take 25,000 all day long. It was reasonable. And he made a good common sense. He goes, it could take me another 6, 7, 8 months to get into this house. So,
and that's what you mean by opportunity cost, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what is it going to cost you if you don't get this house? You're going to get into another bidding war. If you do like a house that, you've been looking for, if you've been looking for the last 6 months or 12 months, look at all the time it's spent to get to this house. And like you said, I know you've had some people that, waiver, you just got to kind of throw some emotion out and say, hey, I'll look at all the time I spent and what the time I could be spending the next 6 months trying to look for another house and what if I get thrown into another bidding war that's even more? So, it takes a lot of sitting down, thinking things through and being ready for, like you said before a couple of weeks ago, just being ready for any scenario and kind of talking about your options.
Yeah, being comfortable with your numbers too, so that before you already know you're going to go look at this house and it's 350. You already know that. You already know you're going to get bid up, so you should know before you walk in the door, what's the highest number that I can possibly work with if I want to write an offer on this house.
Yeah.
So just know going in. So you walk in the door and your number's 350. Okay. And you walk in the door and you heard it's 365 already, then you're done. Then don't do it, because you already know you don't want to go more than 350.
Yep.
Can't afford more. So just, congratulations. We're going to go look at another house. So,
Yeah.
but it's hard because you're like, oh God, I got beat again. It's just tough. But the opportunity cost that you're speaking of is when you're close, when you're between 10 and 20,000 and you're close and that payment still fits within your budget, but you don't want to offer it to them because you don't think the house is worth that. Well, hang in there. In 3 months, it's going to be that price.
Yeah.
And so if you just back off and then you go back and try to buy it in 90 days, now it's, $30,000 more when you were haggling over 10K.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem. You got to get to a point where it's like, okay, you're pushing the limit, but if you push the limit a little bit further, like, okay, what's another $5,000 or $10,000? Yeah, I know it's money and you got to write the check. But like you said, if
you're not writing a $10,000 check unless you have an appraisal problem.
Yeah, exactly. And if once again, if you do have an appraisal problem, you do write it, you have to write more. If you've got the money, you're really just going down to lower the principal. You're not throwing that $10,000 out the door and you're not going to see it. You're going to see it in another way, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
So, and the lump, I'm just going to add this, and I know we'll probably wrap it up here soon, but it's amazing what lumber is doing. I mean, on that one mortgage, you saw that, it says lumber prices have added $35,000 to the price of an average new single family home and $12,000 to the market value of an average new family home, multifamily home. And it's amazing what lumber prices have done.
I was talking to a guy about that, and I was also, all the lumber mills were all shut down, and people weren't even cutting down trees. Lumber was not being shipped to the United States from Canada. Mm-hmm. And so, because Canada, that's where we get a lot of our wood now. And so, but that story is repeated just about everywhere, no matter what the product. It's computer chips, it's refrigerators. So these inflation numbers that we see now, are they temporary because of our supply side issues, or are they temporary and exasperated because of the easy money policy? Yeah. So, who knows? I'm not an economist. You are.
That's $1 million question, but we are seeing inflation everywhere, but I think it's pandemic related. So we're going to, eventually it's going to take time to work through the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, look, in the meantime, Pat, have a great weekend. Love the new mic, and maybe you can go light shopping this weekend.
All right, buddy.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
You betcha. I got to do my little closing thing here. There we are.